Good evening and welcome to ThaiPBS English News Service. I'm Supachon Grinswan. Before we start tonight's news, allow me to remind you that tonight is the last time that we will be on air at 9:15 p.m. to 9:30. As of Monday onwards, our on-air schedule will be 11:30 p.m. from Monday to Friday. And now starting off the first news with our neighboring country. In less than 48 hours, Myanmar will hold an historical by-election and the world will be watching as democracy icon leader, NLD leader, Aung San Suu Kyi is expected to find herself and her party members in parliament. As the military prepare for any violence on election day, massive numbers of Burmese living in Thailand are crossing the border for this historic by-election. Hugh Adams has more.
Burmese living in Thailand are crossing the border back to their motherland for the by-elections being held on Sunday. None of them are prepared to reveal which party they're planning to vote for. Meanwhile, soldiers, police and ethnic groups are being extra vigilant to ensure that no terror groups or weapons cross the border with the intent of causing violence on election day. Thai soldiers along the Thai-Myanmar border are also keeping a close watch for possible violence, especially keeping a watch on ethnic groups who may try to use Thailand as a launchpad to attack Burmese officials or interrupt elections. 45 seats in Myanmar's parliament are up for grabs in this Sunday's poll. This is just 7% of the elected seats in the legislature, which is dominated by the military. A free and fair election could perhaps persuade the West to lift economic sanctions imposed on the military junta. However, today the National League for Democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi hinted that a truly free and fair by-election is unlikely.
I've been saddened by the fact that the government and the Elections Commission have not been as firm as they might have been with regard to the irregular and at times illegal activities that have been taking place. While we recognize that even in well-established democracies there are irregularities and misdemeanors when elections take place, what have been happening in this country are really beyond what is acceptable for a democratic election. Still, we are determined to go forward because we think that this is what our people want.
Since the general election in 2010 and Suu Kyi's release from house arrest in the same month, the pace of change in the country under a nominally civilian government has been staggering, enough to convince her to compromise with the apparently reform-minded ex-generals now in charge. A victory by the lady and the opposition would do little to alter the balance of power in the legislature, but it will be the first time that she will have a formal voice and the first time she can officially represent her supporters in Parliament. Hugh Adams, ThaiPBS.
Thank you, Kun Hugh. Japanese, American and Hong Kong weather forecasters have raised the status of the Pakher tropical storm to a Category 1 typhoon, which will hit Vietnam this weekend. The Thai Met Office, however, are saying that it will not severely affect Thailand, yet some academics are suggesting that this is a strange phenomenon.
Associate Professor Seri Suparathit, director of the Sirinton International Environmental Park, says Pakher is the third tropical storm to roam the Pacific Ocean this year. Storms of this size are unusual for this time of year. However, Seri suggests this storm will not have much effects on Thailand, though it will bring more rain to the east when it is closest to Thailand on Monday.
I think that from the past records after the La Nina year, the number of typhoon will be increased from the average number of typhoon, but we don't know how many is more than. Maybe it's 35, 36, something like that, but we have to monitor it. The typhoon occur now, it will not cause the flooding to the central part. It has to be concentrated from August, July, August, that this typhoon or this tropical storm will have more effects than typhoon today.
The water expert says this monsoon season will likely see more storms in the Thai skies. Pakher has just today been raised to a Category 1 typhoon by Japanese, American and Hong Kong meteorological officers. all parties agree the storm, which is heading west from the South China Sea, will come as it approaches Cambodia. However, there are chances of the north, central, southern, and eastern regions being hit by rain due to a low pressure area and cold winds moving in from the north. Darin Klong Akara, Thai PBS.
This carpet and garment factory is in a 5-floor terraced house located in Intamara 44 in Swanika community of Dindang district. Firefighters say the fire likely started from the workers' housing area located to the rear of the factory. The fire also damaged the next building, which is under construction. The firefighters took about 2 hours to extinguish the fire as the factory is located on a narrow street with no nearby water source, so about 10 fire engines were required to put out the fire. Fortunately, there were no reported deaths nor injuries. The government's disaster insurance fund is now underway, covering floods, earthquakes, and storms as a way to boost investors' confidence. Here's more insight from Dr. Rungtip Chodnapalai's interview with the chairman of Southeast Insurance.
How would the launch of this national peril insurance, gain confidence among the foreign investors?
Yes, actually, this is government plan in order to gain the confidence from the foreign investor in Thailand that they have available insurance, the flood insurance, to cover their plan that they invest in Thailand. Because in the past, when the flood happened and the reinsurers quote the price very high, so they want to cover the risk of flood, but they have to pay a very high price in comparison with the investment offshore in other countries. But the government come up with this fund in order to support that they should be able to pay the reasonable premium to protect their flood risk in the future.
For the suggestions, for example, the industrial, the companies and also the factories, after this one, how do they cope with whatever national disaster that would happen in Thailand?
Yeah, actually, there should be also their own protection, that they have to protect themselves with their own protection, like the walls, or they move up all the inventory upstairs, and all those things that they protect themselves. And of course, we have the insurance to cover 30% of total value of their property, so it should be good enough for them to protect.
Thank you, Kun Rungtip. Social, political, and economic gaps are national problems which affect people across Thailand as capitalism continues to benefit only a small group of people and widens the gap between the rich and the poor. Today, the National Reform Committee has allowed the public to air their problems to seek resolutions. Kun Kankorn Raktham reports.
The National Reform Assembly Committee, or NRAC, has launched the second National Reform Assembly at Baitek Bang Na in an effort to create social equality among Thais and push for the public to have negotiating power at the national level, working side by side with those in the government. As you can see here, people across the country from the wide range of races, religions and careers are attending the National Reform Assembly to empower the citizens and jointly discuss national problems in terms of economics, politics, social and education to create a public policy which they believe that it is a powerful tool to reduce the inequalities and move country forward. Praved Wasi, chairman of the NRAC, says that now people in local communities are coming together to create their own policy to solve their mutual problems, which he sees as social energy and social innovation.
Bad public policies affect everybody in the country, and public policies are in the hands of those with vested interest, with self-interest, with group interest, and not very much knowledge. And that's very dangerous for the country.
during the special speech on the topic of empower the citizen and reduce the inequalities. Jintanai Kaw, a member of the public network, who is one of the protest leaders fighting against the Himkrut Powerhouse project in Prachuap Khiri Khan province, says that now the country's direction is led by a small group of elite people. She also insists that the inequalities are far from being solved. Since 2010, the NRAC or Kana Kanmathikar Samacha Patiroop in Thai has studied problems at the national level related to the inequality in order to propose public policies for the government to put into an action. From the committee study, there are 6 topics for reform to be discussed. Sarawut Yapieku, a tribesman of Akha from northern Thailand, has brought his community to discuss problems about land and home invasion by investors and the authorities. He sees this assembly as a big change in society and the hope for the community. He's one of the many people who believe the NRAC will help solve the issue. The National Reform Assembly is being held today until Sunday at Baitek Bang Na. Members of the public are welcome to participate. This is Kangon Raktham, Thai PBS.
Thank you, Kun Kangon. The 300 baht minimum wage policy will benefit approximately 4 to 5 million laborers as their daily income will increase by an average 60%. But this policy continues to be criticized by academics, the private sector, and entrepreneurs. The 300 baht minimum wage policy will affect workers in 7 provinces from April the 1st. Despite increasing the purchasing power of the workers, academics and parts of the private sector are expressing their concern about the resulting effect on inflation. They say that the government should balance the increased income with the amount of product in the market to protect the economy from inflation. Meanwhile, the central bank will closely monitor the change on the economy caused by this policy. For example, the cost of production and the people's spending. Previously, the Department of Internal Trade found that the 300 baht minimum wage policy might bring an end to some factories unable to adjust to the hike, leading to increased levels of unemployment. As of January the 1st, 2013, every man and woman in the Thai labor sector will be paid at least 300 baht a day, a national average increase of 40% across the board. Of 2 million civil servants in the country, 1.2 are members of the Government Pension Fund, or GPF. This past Tuesday saw nearly 3,000 GPF members rally in front of Parliament demanding better pension benefits. According to protesters, the GPF Act of 1996 means that their pensions will be significantly lower than their final month's salaries. It will also cap the pensions to no more than 70% of the retirees' last month compensation. Given the ever-increasing cost of living, the members of the fund are seeking to change in the way their monthly pensions are being calculated. The fund members are have been asking the government to use the older calculation formula, which would make their monthly pensions closer to the final month's salaries, better reflecting the actual remunerations. This would, however, require amending Section 63 of the Act. The Comptroller General's Department noted that other ways to alter the calculation method could be applied, such as increasing post-reform compensations or increasing the cost of living allowance for retirees. Still, the department would have to check if such changes would impact fiscal expenditure, with assuring that protesters with a new formula for pension calculated would be finalized in a month's time. The lack of response from the Transport Ministry to increase transportation fares has forced the largest interprovincial bus service provider to issue a warning that it would not offer return trips during the Songkran breaks. Sujinda Cherchai, president of the Bus Operators Association, met the Transport Minister today to seek clarity on the adjustment of bus fares. Following the interprovincial bus operators meeting, the group concluded that it would not offer return trip tickets during the Songkran holidays, as its members could not bear the soaring fuel prices any longer. The diesel price has now tipped over 32 baht a liter. Despite the government's attempt to help alleviate the cost by lifting transport charges, apart from higher operators are claiming that it will not help, as higher fuel prices, also tires have also risen tremendously. The inter-provincial bus operators have been asking to raise their fares by 6 tang per kilometer. The Transport Ministry, however, has not approved the proposed adjustment and will meet again on April the 25th to further discuss this matter. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Thai PBS English News Service. We'll see you again Monday night at 11:30 p.m. Until then, good night and สวัสดีครับ